I have a confession to make. I've never really been into anime.
You need to leave!
I didn't like the exaggerated facial expressions, the overtop voices. It just never really clicked for me. And yeah, I know that probably sounds like BS. And you're right. I never watched it because of the kids in high school who used to run around like Naruto. But hey, we all have our things, right? Then I found this show called Blue Eye Samurai. At first glance, it didn't really seem like something that I'd like. I thought the art style was bad and I almost skipped it entirely. But something you should know about me is I watch a lot of video essays on basically anything really. And one channel that I watch a lot is Schaefer's Productions. If you don't know who that is, you should really check it out. I usually agree with a lot of their opinions. So when they ranked Blue Eye Samurai as one of their top shows of 2023, I decided to give it a try. Before I dive into spoilers, I just want to say that I was wrong about the animation. I came to really like the look of the show, and there were just some breathtaking backgrounds and scenic shots. Alright, now let me give you a quick rundown of Blue Eye Samurai for those who haven't watched it yet. Or maybe you just have this video on in the background while you're doing something else. Either way, here's what you need to know. Blue Eye Samurai is set in an alternate version of Japan during the Edo period in the 1700s, where white people are banned. The show follows Mizu, a half-Japanese, half-white samurai who disguises herself as a man. Her mixed heritage makes her a target of hate in a society that views her as a creature of shame. Mizu kind of has a Batman backstory where her mother died at the hands of villagers after Mizu left their hiding place, which fuels her vow to kill every white person who was in Japan when she was conceived.
I'm Batman.
One day, as young Mizu is being bullied by local kids, a meteor crashes nearby, sending the kids running. An older man arrives to collect the meteor and Mizu helps him bring it home. This man turns out to be a swordsmith, and he takes Mizu in as both his apprentice and surrogate child. Mizu grows up learning the art of swordsmithing from him, a master swordsmaker, who becomes her mentor. Not only does she learn how to craft swords, but she also becomes skilled in wielding them by watching the people who come through their doors. One little detail I like about the show is that Mizu calls her father Sword Father, which I honestly think is really badass. That's the basic premise of the show. When we first meet Mizu, she's already deep into her quest for revenge. She's taken down one of the 4 white men in Japan, leaving her with 3 more targets. If that piques your interest, go watch the show and come back later. Alright, spoiler time. The show weaves 2 main storylines: Mizu's path of revenge and Princess Akemi's desire to marry Taigen, a samurai she loves despite their class difference. These separate threads gradually intertwine as the season progresses. The show kicks off with Mizu tracking down a man tied to one of her targets. She finds him in a restaurant, forces out information, and inadvertently gains a new companion, Ringo, a disabled man who, despite his challenges, is determined to become a samurai. Ringo's positivity and humor balances out the darker tones of the show, bringing a lot of charm to the narrative. I really like his character, but there are a few things the creators could have done better with him. I'll get to that later though. After meeting Ringo, Mizu is hesitant to let him join her on her path, repeatedly turning him away. She even buys him 3 free nights at a whorehouse. This man is a virgin too. He's never seen a naked girl in his life, so when he continues to show his dedication, Mizu has no choice but accept him. Mizu, now armed with information, tracks down a man who knows the whereabouts of her next target. He's the head of the dojo, but despite her attempts to meet with him, she's denied at every turn. Mizu just wants to talk, but she ends up fighting all of his students, leading to a showdown with Taigen, Princess Akemi's lover. In their fight, Mizu recognizes him as one of the kids who used to bully her, someone who was there when the meteor landed. She defeats him, even cutting off a large chunk of his hair in the process. Finally, the dojo master agrees to tell Mizu what she wants to know.
Oh my god, bro.
Which is the location of his brother, and with that, she continues on her way. On the other side of the story, Princess Akemi is dealing with her own set of challenges. Akemi is a strong-willed princess determined to marry Taigen, a samurai of lower status. Their love is genuine, but it's complicated by the rigid social structures of the time. Akemi's journey is about fighting for her love and challenging the societal norms that seek to keep them apart. Akemi's story unfolds within the palace, where she faces the pressures of her royal duties and the expectations of an arranged marriage. She's betrothed to a man of higher status, a match that would benefit her family politically, but her love for Taigen drives her to resist this. She even manages to convince her father to accept the match between her and Taigen, thinking they can finally be together. But when Akemi finally reunites with Taigen, things don't go as planned. The once undefeated samurai is now humiliated after being defeated by Mitsu. Akemi, not one to give up easily, tries to convince him that the fight wasn't legitimate, using some, let's just say, sexy manipulation. to boost his ego. But after they're done, Taigen pulls a move no one saw coming. He gets up and leaves, determined to challenge Mitsu for real this time. Episode 2 ramps up the tension as Mizu and Ringo continue their journey. The head of the dojo from whom Mitsu had previously obtained information from sends a warning to his brother, Heiji Shindo, that she is coming for him. Heiji, fully aware of the threat Mitsu poses, decides to take preemptive action by dispatching his 4 best assassins, known as the Four Fangs, to eliminate her. Meanwhile, Mitsu and Ringo, completely oblivious to the dangers looming over them, find themselves stuck in a town that is celebrating a festival called the Day of Purity. Unable to leave, Mitsu takes the opportunity to train while Ringo immerses himself in the festivities. Ringo's experience at the festival is a mix of excitement and self-discovery. He tries some food that reminds him of his dishes he used to cook, only to realize that his own cooking, which he once thought was the best, pales in comparison. This realization shakes his confidence, but Ringo refuses to let it bring him down. As the festival reaches its climax, with the townspeople stripping down and plunging into freezing water to retrieve a lucky stick, Ringo decides to join in. Despite his doubts and the physical challenges he faces, he emerges victorious, grabbing the stick with his mouth and earning the town's admiration. While Ringo is enjoying his unexpected triumph, Mizu's training is abruptly interrupted by the arrival of the Four Fangs, who have tracked her down. They surround her, forcing her to retreat to a small clearing on the mountainside where the limited space prevents all 4 from attacking her at once. The episode then flashes back to Mizu's past, showing her first attempt at crafting a sword under the guidance of her mentor, Swordfather. A man enters the shop with a pitiful story, begging for a sword at a bargain price. Mizu completes the sword, but when she presents it to him, it shatters in half. The man, enraged, reveals his true identity as an assassin. This memory haunts Mizu as she fights the Four Fangs, recognizing the shattered sword from her past. One by one, she takes down the assassins, but not without sustaining significant injuries herself. Just as she finishes the last of them, Taigen suddenly appears, ready to challenge her once more to restore his honor. Mizu, severely weakened and barely standing, prepares to face Taigen. The tension builds as they ready themselves for battle, only for Mizu to completely collapse from her injuries, leaving the outcome of their confrontation unresolved.
Are you serious right now, bro?
We also learn that Princess Akemi has decided to run away, and Seki agrees to join her to watch over her. That's the end of episode 2. Episode 3 opens with a flashback to Mizu's infancy. 2 men are ordered to kill her, but one of them can't bring himself to harm a child. When his partner tries to carry out the task, he kills him, hands baby Mizu to a horrified woman, and tells her to flee with the child. Back in the present, Mizu collapses at Taigen's feet from her wounds. Taigen debates finishing her off, but ultimately decides against it. Ringo arrives, and together they take Mizu to a nearby shrine to treat her injuries. As she recovers, Mizu experiences feverish flashbacks of her traumatic childhood, haunted by warnings that bad men would find her if she ever revealed herself. Meanwhile, at Heiji Shindo's stronghold on Tanabe Island, the news of the Four Fangs' death enrages Shindo's European partner. He orders Shindo to deal with Mitsu as they continue plotting to control the shogunate. At the shrine, Ringo uses herbs and mushrooms to tend to Mizu's wounds, while Taigen drafts a contract for a formal duel with her. Suddenly, a massive man named Okiyama arrives, delivering an invitation from Shindo for a meeting. Despite Taigen's warnings that it's a trap, Mizu insists on going, and they set off together. On their journey, Akemi and Seki face trouble as thugs attack them, leaving Akemi robbed and stranded. Determined to continue, Akemi tricks a local flesh trader, Goro, into taking her to Mihonaseki, while Seki is forced to watch her leave. When Mizu, Taigen, Ringo, and Okiyama reach Shindo's meeting place, tensions are high. Shindo offers to help Mizu in her quest for revenge, revealing his disdain for his European partner, Abijah Fowler. He proposes smuggling Mizu into the castle in a sake barrel. When Mizu refuses, Shindo tries to force her hand, leading to a deadly confrontation where Mizu cuts off Shindo's hand. As archers rain arrows down on them, Mizu, Taigen, and Ringo make a daring escape through a narrow ravine. They survive, and Mizu reveals a new plan to infiltrate the castle using the prostitutes Shindo mentioned. In a twist, Mizu knocks Taigen out, leaving behind a broken sword and a note offering to duel him in the autumn, after she completes her revenge. Unfortunately for Taigen, Okiyama captures him and delivers him to Shindo and Fowler, who plans to torture him for information on Mizu. The episode kicks off with a woman adding something suspicious to a pot of sake before serving it to a samurai, who turns out to be Mizu. The woman serving the drink, none other than Akemi. We then flash back to Mizu arriving in a new town. After witnessing a duel, she seeks out Madame Kaji, a woman known for catering to peculiar tastes, hoping to learn how to infiltrate Heiji Shindo and Abijah Fowler Island Castle. Madame Kaji is initially hesitant to help, but Mizu's sword skill and mention of her maiming Heiji Shindo persuades the madam to strike a deal. In exchange for the information, Madame Kaji asks Mizu to end the suffering of Kinuyo, a deaf-mute girl under the control of the local Yakuza boss, Hamada. Meanwhile, Akemi, after leaving Seki, travels from town to town with Goro, secretly searching for Taigen. They eventually reach the same town as Mizu, and Akemi spots Mizu wearing Taigen's scarf. She then follows Goro to Madame Kaji's brothel, swipes his knockout drug, and poses as a courtesan. When Akemi tries to drug Mizu, Mizu sees right through her act, reveals that Taigen is alive, and ties her up. Mizu infiltrates Hamada's gambling house, intent on ending Kinuyo's misery. After subduing the guard, Mizu gains Kinuyo's trust before suddenly breaking her neck, staging the scene as a mutual kill. Mizu returns to the brothel, where Madame Kaji provides her with the information she sought. However, their plans are disrupted when Boss Hamada and his gang arrive, ready to exact revenge. A young boy who had seen Mizu leaving the scene identifies her. In retaliation, Hamada orders his men to kill everyone at the brothel and burn it to the ground. The next episode opens with a puppet stage performance, resembling Bunraku theater, before a high-ranking audience. The narrator tells a story of a Ronin seeking vengeance for his slain master, while we see Mizu facing down the Thousand Claws with a hateful glare. Mizu cuts down several members of the Claws, buying time to retreat into the brothel, while Madame Kaji, Akemi, and the other girls are hiding in the basement. Mizu recalls her childhood, where her mother insisted she appear as a boy to stay out of sight of dangerous men. Flashback to the present as the Claws break into the brothel. Mizu ambushes them from the darkness, but one manages to wound her. While the puppet show depicts the Ronin's difficult path of vengeance, Mizu flashes back to her own past struggles, including an encounter with opium dealers. Mizu, severely wounded, is saved by her estranged mother, the one who is supposed to be dead, and she tends to her until she recovers. Meanwhile, in the present, Mizu is in the fight of her life, taking hits left and right. At one point, Mizu is nearly killed after falling unconscious until Akemi intervenes.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
While Akemi tries to awaken unconscious and nearly on the verge of death Mizu, we're thrown back to visions of the past. In a pivotal flashback, we see Mizu's life taking an unexpected turn. After being nursed back to health by her mother, she's guilt-tripped into an arranged marriage with Mikio, a disgraced samurai. What starts as a tense and awkward relationship gradually softens into genuine affection, offering Mizu a brief glimpse of happiness. It's clear that during this time, Mizu is beginning to heal from her past traumas, almost forgetting the mission that once consumed her. As Mizu tries to build a new life, her mother spirals into an opium addiction, adding strain to an already fragile situation. But this isn't enough to break Mizu's newfound bond with Mikio. The two find solace in their daily horse rides, sharing moments that allow Mizu to let her guard down. One day, during one of their outings, they engage in playful wrestling. And for the first time in a long while, Mizu feels she can truly be herself. She shows off her sword skills, expecting Mikio to laugh along, but instead, he suddenly withdraws and disappears without a word. Later, there's a knock at the door. Mizu answers, expecting to see Mikio, only to be met by soldiers who've come to claim the bounty on her head. As they close in, Mikio returns. But instead of coming to her aid, he coldly turns away, leaving her to fend for herself. Mizu dispatches the guards with deadly precision, only to confront Mikio, who swears he wasn't the one who betrayed her, pointing the finger at her mother instead. In that moment, the last remnants of Mizu's happiness die. As her husband and mother argue, Mizu, now devoid of emotion, kills them both. In the present, Mizu uses her sword to create a makeshift naginata, decimating the remaining claws. She captures Boss Hamada,
delivering him to Madame Kaji for revenge. Exhausted, Mizu is confronted by a samurai sent by Lord Daichi to retrieve Akemi. Despite Akemi's pleas, Mizu refuses to fight for her, leading Ringo to denounce her. Mizu, unfazed, limps away, continuing her quest. The puppet show concludes, revealing that the performance was for the shogun and his guests, including Akemi, who now has blackened teeth, indicating her engagement to the shogun's younger son. Akemi coldly reflects that she once met an Onryo and found no trace of love or goodness in its eyes. The next episode begins with Mizu staring at Fowler's castle on Tanabe Island, mentally preparing herself for the challenge ahead. Mizu finds the secret tunnel beneath the sea that Madame Kaji told her about. Disturbed by the numerous human skeletons, many of them children within, she narrowly escapes a trap that floods the tunnel and emerges inside the castle. Despite her efforts to remain stealthy, the alarm is quickly raised. Fowler, Heiji Shindo, and Lord Shiba are conspiring in the castle's top floor, discussing their plans to overthrow the shogun. Fowler proudly displays the rifles intended for their troops, while Shiba expresses concern over the anticipated death toll. They are interrupted by news of an intruder, which Shindo immediately identifies as Mizu. Mizu navigates a series of deadly traps, including a corridor with closing walls, springing blades, and a narrow path with pit traps straight out of Indiana Jones, which leads her to a fight with guards, and finally an encounter with a monkey that triggers a hallucinogenic state by blowing pollen in her face. Disoriented by her hallucinations, Mizu fights her way through what she perceives as attacking monkeys and later encounters prisoners in the dungeon. Heiji Shindo's enforcer, Okiyama, sets the prisoners free and plunges the room into darkness. Mizu, seeing the prisoners as demonic beings, kills them all. Among the prisoners is a badly injured Taigen, whom Mizu decides to rescue, despite his reluctance when he realizes they are heading deeper into the castle instead of escaping. Mizu then faces Okiyama in a difficult battle, further complicated by her hallucinations. She ultimately defeats him using an explosive, but the explosion temporarily knocks her out. When she awakens, she finds herself hanging from a damaged tower with Taigen about to fall. She saves him and climbs the tower exterior, bypassing several floors before bursting into the room where Fowler, Shindo, and Shiba are. Mizu demands to know where Fowler is, briefly distracted by Lord Shiba's attack, whom she quickly overpowers. Fowler, however, is ready with a loaded rifle. He shoots Mizu, breaking her sword and wounding her shoulder. Fowler taunts Mizu, hinting that he knows about her tattoo and her connection to the white men she's killed, mocking her attempt at vengeance. Despite her injuries, Mizu tries to fight, but Fowler easily overpowers her. Taigen, gathering his last bit of strength, attempts to attack Fowler but fails, prompting Fowler to begin beating Taigen mercilessly. Realizing the futility of her situation, Mizu grabs Taigen and makes a desperate leap out of the window, plunging them into the icy waters below. Mizu tries to swim to safety but struggles to pull Taigen onto the ice. As they begin to sink, she hears a bell ringing and sees a figure, possibly Ringo, standing on the ice, reaching toward her before her vision fades to black. The episode begins with Ringo pleading for help at the door of Master Eiji's hut after bringing Mizu and Taigen there in the back of a cart. Master Eiji recognizes the sound of Mizu's sword and immediately opens the door to tend to them. As winter turns to spring, Fowler and Heiji Shindo leave Tanabe Island, heading to Edo for the Sano Matsuri, where they plan to launch their coup. Shindo worries about the missing guns, but Fowler reassures him, and their trip is filled with debauchery. At Madame Kaji's brothel, Fowler reveals the guns will arrive by boat in 2 days. Shindo secretly informs Lord Shiba, urging him to intercept the guns, but Shiba finds no signs of them, causing him to doubt Fowler. Back at Master Eiji's house, Mizu awakens, finding Ringo still angry with her, but Taigen is thankful for her saving his life. Meanwhile, Mizu asks Master Eiji to mend her sword, but he refuses, believing her vengeance is out of control. So Mizu attempts to reforge it herself, but struggles. Taigen suggests that she fight Fowler with any weapon, but when Mizu reveals Akemi's engagement to the shogun's son and Fowler's plot, the mood shifts.
Why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
Taigen is furious.
Mizu has kept this information from him, and he leaves to warn the shogun, vowing to duel Mizu afterwards. Akemi's marriage to the shogun's son Takayoshi is imminent, and she struggles with the arrangement. While going through her engagement gifts, Akemi frees a bird, but as it escapes, her future husband kills it. Later, during a meal, she is humiliated by Lady Ito, the shogun's wife, who serves her the dead bird she freed earlier. Akemi remains composed, but is furious. Later, she confronts Takayoshi and discovers his fearsome reputation is just a cover for his stutter. The two begin to bond, which leads to them eventually making love. Back at Master Eiji's, Mizu remains troubled. Eiji advises her to focus on balancing all aspects of herself, not just the demon inside. With Ringo's help, Mizu performs a ceremony to find balance and successfully melts the steel to reforge her sword. However, she gives the steel to Master Eiji and sets off for Edo with Ringo. Fowler reveals the guns have arrived, disguised as parts of other Western goods, and he demonstrates their power to Shindo. He then has Lord Chiba executed for attempting to intercept the guns and forces Shindo to take Shiba's place in the coup. Shindo reluctantly agrees as they prepare to take Edo Castle and overthrow the shogun. Akemi, realizing her attendants are spies for Lady Ito, dismisses them and summons Madame Kaji and her girls, offering to buy out their contracts and employ them in the palace. Ise, grateful for Akemi's generosity, reveals Fowler's plot to overthrow the shogunate. Akemi brings Ise to her father, Lord Daichi, who thanks Ise and then throws her off a balcony, revealing his involvement in the coup. He imprisons Akemi to keep her safe and out of the way during the coup. Mizu and Ringo stand on the outskirts of Edo, overlooking the city from a hill, with the shogun's massive palace at its center. They discuss their plan. Mizu will infiltrate the palace to kill Fowler and rescue Akemi, while Ringo waits by the sewers to help Akemi escape. Ringo expresses concern about what will happen if Fowler kills the shogun, but Mizu is indifferent to the shogun's fate. She promises to meet Ringo back on the hill unless she fails or dies, but Ringo refuses to listen to any contingency plan. Mizu enters the castle and confronts Madame Kaji, who now serves as Akemi's major domo. Kaji initially tries to turn Mizu away, but when Mizu mentions Fowler's plot, Kaji realizes the danger and agrees to leave with her girls. Meanwhile, deep in the castle, Lord Daichi reveals to Akemi his plans to become the new shogun after the coup. With Fowler intending to use him as a puppet, Akemi refuses to cooperate, and Seki arrives, killing the guards to help her escape. They lock Daichi in Akemi's cell but are cornered by more samurai, only for Mizu to ambush them, allowing Akemi and Seki to escape. At the location where Ringo is supposed to wait for Akemi, he encounters Taigen, who insists on warning the shogun. Together they manage to get the shogun's attention and reveal the plot. As Fowler's army marches through the streets of Edo, the alarm is raised and desperate attempts to defend the palace begin. Mizu parts way with Akemi and Seki, while Taigen and Ringo take shelter with the shogun and his remaining defenders, preparing for a last stand. Despite their efforts, Fowler's forces overwhelm the palace, with Heiji Shindo betraying the defenders by opening the final gate for Fowler. Inside the keep, the shogun, Taigen, and the others listen helplessly as Fowler and his men breach the door. Fowler shoots the shogun and demands the lords fall in line. Just then, Mizu bursts into the room, creating chaos among Fowler's men. In the confusion, Mizu, Taigen, and the defenders counterattack, killing Fowler's men. Fowler flees and Taigen urges Mizu to pursue him, while the others escape through an underground passage. Mizu catches up to Fowler. She gets the better of him, and just as she is about to kill him, Fowler reveals shocking details about Mizu's past, including the possibility that her mother wasn't who she thought she was. He tells her the woman who she thinks was her mom was actually just paid to play the part, and that the other two white men she seeks are in London, and without him, she'll never be able to find them. Outside, Akemi and Seki trap Fowler's soldiers in the burning castle, but Seki is mortally wounded. But before dying, Seki tells Akemi to choose her path, and he admits he dreamed of a Japan ruled by her. Taigen sees Akemi as she says her goodbyes to Seki. He tells her to come escape with him and live a happy, simple life, but she rejects him, deciding to pursue greatness. Meanwhile, the shogun's family escapes through a tunnel,
with Lady Ito coldly instructing her son to lock the lords inside the burning castle to prevent a scandal. Akemi later joins them, committed to her ambition. Ringo waits in vain for Mizu on the hill, eventually returning to Master Eiichi's house, where the Sword Father implies that they will continue working together. The season ends with Mizu on a ship holding Fowler captive, looking out at a stormy sea, hinting at her next journey to London. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you for watching. This is my first YouTube video, so it should get better from here. And I'm sorry for clickbaiting you guys. This was more of a recap. My next video will actually be an analysis of the show. Alright, bye.